As the investigation into the deadly attack at a gay nightclub in Orlando continues, organizers of Lexington's Pride Festival meet with police to make sure the event stays safe.
Everyone needs to come together as one.
How people in central Kentucky are honoring those killed in the Orlando attack.
And find out how one man is trying to save parts of central Kentucky history to make sure they are preserved for generations to come.
This is WKYT News at 6.
Good evening. As people across this country mourn those killed in the attack at a gay nightclub in Orlando, investigators have released some new details about the man responsible for the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Today, the FBI portrayed 29-year-old Omar Mateen as an apparent homegrown extremist who was probably inspired by foreign terrorist organizations. President Obama says there's no clear evidence so far that Mateen was directed by the Islamic State. He was killed in a gun battle with a SWAT team early yesterday morning after police say he killed 49 people at the Pulse Orlando club.
The FBI is also investigating if Mateen had recently scouted Disney World and other locations as potential targets for an attack. Also today, we've learned one of the victims, 29-year-old Daryl Burt, spent part of his childhood in Georgetown. Friends say recently he had been living in Jacksonville, Florida, and worked as a financial aid officer. In Lexington this afternoon, organizers of the city's Pride Festival met with police to talk about security plans for the event. Kristen Kennedy begins our top story team coverage.
The chief of police says there is no question you'll now see more officers downtown during the Pride Festival.
People expect that because just the time that we're going through. We just are going through an event that we had a huge hate crime last year in Charleston, down at Mother Emanuel. Within a week, we have another hate crime that's come up in Orlando.
Sunday morning shooting inside a gay nightclub in Orlando sent shock and heartache across the nation. With Lexington less than 2 weeks away from hosting an annual Pride Festival, organizers are being extra cautious.
There will be people on the ground keeping an eye out. There will be more police officers there keeping an eye out.
Christopher Bauer is expecting more than 25,000 people to attend this year's event. He says this will be the safest in their 9 years.
People need to come out, not just LGBT people, but allies and the rest of the community need to come out and show that this community is supportive of everybody, and that this community stands up for what's right, and that this community will not stand for something like that happening here.
The event will run from 11 to 9 p.m. Saturday, June 25th. In Lexington, Kristen Kennedy, WKYT.
The Pride Festival will be held on the grounds of the Fayette County Courthouse.
More vigils were held across the country today to honor the victims of the attack. In Frankfort, people on the Kentucky State University campus held a memorial service this afternoon, which included a moment of silence. Sean Moody continues our top story team coverage.
The LGBTQ outreach group here on campus has only been around for a couple of years. The members say the attack there in Orlando has really shaken all of them. For the past couple of years, Crystal Conway Cunningham has led the Outlet Center. It's an LGBTQ support group on campus. She said it was important to her to create a space like this.
We didn't have a safe space for us.
When she started to hear what had happened in Orlando, like the rest of the country, she could hardly believe it.
I was just in a state of shock. I was like, no, maybe I'm reading this wrong.
Today, she and fellow students and administrators held a moment of silence as the flags flew at half-staff, and they read the names of the victims they knew so far. Interim President Darren Thompson said it was important to look for lessons from the Orlando shooting.
And that we all have different thoughts, different feelings. We make up different social elements of our society, different racial elements, different all kinds of elements. How do we learn from that? How do we grow from that? How do we learn from people that are different from us?
Crystal couldn't agree more.
It's extremely important that everybody has each other's back, no matter your background, no matter your skin tone, no matter your religious background, your sexual orientation. Everyone needs to come together as one in order to basically make the world a better place.
And the interim president said there are mental health counselors available to anyone here on campus who needs them. In Frankfort, Sean Moody, WKYT.
The CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley will have much more on the Orlando nightclub attack coming up at 6:30. You'll also find updates on our website, WKYT.com, and on the WKYT News app.
Today was the 5th day of testimony in the trial of a man accused of killing a Lexington man and stuffing his body in a barrel. Police charged Mark Taylor with murder and kidnapping in the 2013 death of Alex Johnson. Much of the testimony today focused on Johnson's injuries and how he died. And as Victor Puente tells us, the jury also saw the barrel that police say Johnson's body was stuffed into.
For the first time in this trial, witnesses for the defense took the stand. Two different men told jurors that Timothy Ballard, the man charged with Mark Taylor, told them he was a killer. The day started with prosecutors bringing in the barrel that was pulled from the Kentucky River with Alex Johnson's body inside.
The head was towards the bottom and his knees were bent and sort of out. When we opened that part, or when I looked in, that part that had been opened, you could see his feet.
That medical examiner's testimony included graphic photos of the injuries to Alex Johnson's head. She said he had a fractured skull and neck and multiple cuts and bruises.
20-something on the head. And so the first part is to document where those each are located.
Last week, Timothy Ballard testified that he had helped Mark Taylor put the body in the barrel after Taylor had beat Johnson to death. That testimony was part of his plea deal to kidnapping and tampering with physical evidence. Today, two men who had served time with Ballard told jurors he had said he was a killer.
He said they ain't got me with nothing but tampering. He said, man, I took a slapjack and beat dude's face off with a slapjack.
He's like, man, I'm gonna kill dude for real. He's like, but I can't take that kind of time. I'm not gonna take that charge. That guy's, and that dude's young, he can handle it, he can handle that kind of charge. He may see the streets again. I won't ever see the streets again.
Prosecutors say surveillance video shows that Ballard was driving Taylor's car when Taylor attacked Johnson in the back seat. That car was sold for scrap about 10 days after Johnson was killed. In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Victor, thank you. Police say money and marijuana were the motives for the murder. Ballard testified that he and Taylor took $40,000 from Johnson's apartment after he was killed. New tonight, Winchester police are asking for help finding a witness who left the scene of a deadly crash last week. Police say a driver became blinded by lights, causing his car to hit two other cars at the intersection of the bypass and Colby Road Tuesday night. They say two women in one of the cars also died. Police say they're looking for the driver of a dark passenger car who was turning onto Colby Road from the bypass at the time of the crash. They say the car is possibly a Nissan Altima and it has tinted windows. They think the driver could give them more information about the crash. A police report has revealed more details about the arrest of UK basketball player Derek Willis. The Boone County Sheriff's Office charged Willis with alcohol intoxication over the weekend, according to the arrest citation. A deputy found Willis lying in a street outside an open driver's side door of the car. The citation says Willis had passed out and had to be woken up. Says Willis admitted having had a lot to drink and couldn't advise where he was other than in northern Kentucky. UK released a statement today saying it was aware of the situation and is still gathering information.
They are pieces of central Kentucky history dating back more than a century. But some vacant homes have fallen into disrepair. And now one man has made it his mission to save them. As Miranda Combs tells us, new at 6, he's trying to preserve the past for the present.
Sometimes it's hard to see the value in something so grown up.
Don't get hurt in there.
In this case, it's hard to see anything at all.
I'm okay. In this instance, the family doesn't live within 100 miles of here. They have a story to tell. Every building has a great story.
But beyond the cracked paint and wooden boards,
it's a sort of a 1850s Kentucky typical Gothic revival inspired building.
Eric Wisman has had his eye on this one for a while.
The dirtier the better.
The owners haven't touched it, but they also haven't sold it.
It's probably been empty from looking at the roof line and some of the work that's been done to it, I would say about 20 or 30 years.
He's in the business of connecting the past to the present.
You can bring a historic property back for a very reasonable cost.
By taking homes like this one and making sure they stay.
They last and last and last, even when they've been derelict and abandoned for 30 years.
Wisman runs the Kentucky Trust for Historic Preservation. He finds old buildings and does his best to protect them.
It's a connection to our past, to our history, to our ancestors that built this country and left us all these great places and left us our communities.
If this home was handed over to the trust, they'd secure it and find a buyer that would guarantee to preserve its place in Maysville.
We own the option to purchase this at a set price we agreed upon with the owner, which allows us to then market it for sale to find someone to be the next steward of the property.
This house didn't need a lot of work.
It's pretty stable and ready to go.
For 30 years, this house sat empty.
I love the light in this house, though. Every room has tons of windows.
It's like stepping back in time.
Yeah, it's been a little closed up and musty lately. That's the only issue. We had some plaster fall recently.
The houses have stories.
In 1986, this was in the film adaptation of Huckleberry Finn that was filmed here in Maysville.
Not just levels, but life after life that have passed through them. Wistman says Kentucky has the 4th most buildings listed on the National Historic Register.
We try to focus more on the rural landscapes, the places that don't have an advocate or that have been forgotten.
The trust has saved several hundred buildings in Kentucky, some abandoned, others harder to explain.
You know, I just took over as chief 2 months ago. Certainly not how I would have started this chapter of my career.
And a difficult page to turn for the city of Maysville. That day they lost 3 kids and 2 adults. But what's left, this brick shell, represents hundreds of years of Kentucky history.
Probably the only complete set of row homes in Kentucky that I'm aware of.
Because he believes there's more stories to come from this place, while honoring the lives lost inside and the history these walls hold.
We're losing a lot of very important early history every day in the States.
Miranda Combs, WKYT.
31 Kentucky properties are National Historic Landmarks, a distinction above the register.
Still to come, making sure no child goes hungry this summer. How one Central Kentucky organization is helping feed children while they're off from school.
And then why some people in the Moorhead area are going to drone school this week.
And just ahead, we were timing additional rounds of showers and thunderstorms into the area on some steamy air blowing back into central and eastern Kentucky. Brand new hour-by-hour forecast in a moment.
WKYT is putting the new back in late news with newer stories and more updates. So there's less repetition, which means no wasted time. WKYT News at 11. Newer, fresher, worth staying up for.
A fully stocked store to me is the most important thing because you have to have a good understanding of your store and your customers to really be able to know where everything is. You got to go on the journey together. It makes you feel good because you get close to these people and then they really do. They depend on you. They ask for you. It makes the customer's experience 100 times better. You learn things about people and it really does. It makes them come back because they genuinely appreciate you. I'm Craig and I work at the Charlestown Road Kroger.
If you've been denied VA benefits, visit forthepeople.com or call 1-800-MORGAN-LAW so we can help you with your appeal. Morgan & Morgan, for our veterans.
Kentucky Lottery jackpot sequence has been initiated. Prepare for current.
Tuesday's Mega Millions $293 million. Wednesday's Powerball $153 million.
Some things are simply impossible to ignore. The strikingly designed Lexus NX Turbo and Hybrid, the SUV that dares to go beyond utility. Lease the 2016 NX Turbo for $329 a month for 36 months. See your Lexus dealer.
We're doing our best to get back on track after all my unexpected medical expenses.
But with only one source of income, it's a real struggle. Maybe bankruptcy is the answer.
A lot of people out there are drowning in debt.
We're Atkinson, Sims & Kermode. You can have a brighter future away from debt.
We've come up with a way to get you started for less.
Start your bankruptcy for only $78 now. The consultation is free in Lexington and now in London.
Treat yourself to summertime fun with a new Subaru from Quantrell. Discover why Subarus are preferred by people of all ages with active lifestyles. During June, own a new Legacy for only $23,980 or lease it for just $214 per month. Or own a new Outback for only $27,490 or lease it for just $259 per month. Summertime fun is waiting for you, so grab it with a new Subaru from Quantrell. We have great lease and finance specials during our huge summer sale.
Someone else can get them dressed. Someone else can push the swing. Someone else can fix their lunch. Someone else can tuck them in. But they don't want someone else. They want you. Get checked for breast and cervical cancer. For information on free screenings, call 1-844-249-0708.
19 pool tables and a full bar. Only at Silver Q on New Circle Road.
Keep up with the latest news on WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
God's Pantry Food Bank is working in 10 central Kentucky counties to launch a summer feeding program for children.
The program gives children who are already on free or reduced lunch at school access to nutritious food during the summer break. Some sites will feed between 50 to 100 children. Organizers say the need is huge, but the challenge can be getting children to the sites where the meals are served.
Our message is that we want kids to access meals in the summer. Fewer than 8% of kids who are eligible for meals during the school year access meals through the summer feeding program, and we want to see that go up.
To find a summer feeding program near you, just go to our website, WKYT.com.
Some people in Moorhead are going to flight school, but they'll never leave the ground once they graduate. They're the first to go to drone school, a new program through Unmanned Services Incorporated of Lexington. After the 4-day course, students will be prepared to apply for a commercial zone drone license through the FAA.
Since it's moved into the commercial space, a lot of people are noticing, the great benefits of using drones, cost efficiencies, and time and manpower.
If you missed out this week, Unmanned Services will host another drone class in August. The cost is $1,500.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
Beautiful blue sky out there today. Today, a little warmer than we should be. Central Kentucky, cooler than we should be across the eastern part of the state, but everybody with that low humidity leading to the blue sky on top of us. 9 live sky cams all fired up for you, lined up into the I-65 corridor. 75 eastern Kentucky. Everything looking blue as well. Nothing going on. Here's that crystal blue sky into Lexington, though we're looking on that southwestern horizon now, noticing some ice crystal clouds, and that's a good looking sky. 87 degrees, humidity at 30%, so it is way down. Winds are coming at us from the northeast at around 6 miles an hour. Doing a little yard work over the next 3 days. Thankfully, we've kind of turned the faucet off of late, so yards aren't growing as quickly, and we're going a little longer now in between the mows. Storm threat tomorrow, 90 degrees into the afternoon. Better chance for some strong storms second part of our Wednesday into early Thursday. Thursday and even Wednesday for that matter, if you get enough sunshine, all 3 days coming up can hit 90 degrees into central and eastern Kentucky. Defender Radar Network, nothing going on locally. Let's go back to the west, though, and look at the line of thunderstorms that's really on the leading edge now of the hotter and more humid air into western Kentucky. And I suspect tomorrow at this time, that little broken line of thunderstorms that you see showing up now from Bowling Green to Owensboro may be right on top of central Kentucky. 24-hour planner, 60s to start. 90 as we go into the afternoon. It will feel warmer than that as the humid air makes a run at us with a few storms that will fire up tomorrow afternoon. Keep an eye out for the second half of Wednesday into Wednesday night. Could be some stronger local severe thunderstorms during that time with some high winds. Thursday, storm or two around, very steamy temperatures yet again. Hour by hour, 60s at 11 o'clock. Eastern Kentucky, you've got some 50s to play with early tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon. Here comes that steamy air. Many areas will hit 90 before a shower or thunderstorm blossoms into the heat and humidity of the afternoon. Now we go into Wednesday. Watch this hour by hour. Scattered stuff early, we get to the evening, watch the northern sky. It could be a potent line of thunderstorms dropping in from northwest to southeast with some high winds as we're on the leading edge now of the really hot air that will be out across western Kentucky, Mississippi Valley. So those thunderstorms in a setup like this like to work around the periphery of that big heat ridge that will be positioned just to our west. Now, as we go into later this week, get a quick moving system across the Ohio Valley that cranks into a big East Coast storm, very un-June-like. And what that will do, that'll pull in some cooler and drier air for the upcoming weekend. As of now, still a few days to work on it, but as of now, that weekend looks pretty darn good. A little bumpy to get there. Any day through Thursday can feature 90 where you live. Better chance for some strong storms around Wednesday into Wednesday night, and then we get into the lower humidity and the pleasant temperatures normal for this time of year, mainly 80 to 85 this coming weekend.
We won't show your shoes, but your shoelaces match your tie.
No.
Listen,
He called you out.
I'm all about matching the tennis shoes with the tie, all right?
I'll post a picture on that somewhere.
There you go. We'll show it.
Blackmail.
Yeah, we'll show it.
I knew he'd take it well. I knew he'd take it well.
Of course. All right, Brian is back, and Kentucky Speedway is going through some changes to the track.
Yeah, no more bumps and all is smooth in Sparta, but how do the drivers feel about that? UK has a new baseball coach, John Calipari, joins a certain committee to come up with solutions for the NCAA tournament. I'll tell you about that coming up next.
Get WKYT news and weather updates on 98.1 The Bull.
Go all out, make Dad's day. Right now, buy one, get one free on most suits and more. Non-iron shirts are 3 for $99.99. Designer denim is 2 for $100, and other great gifts are just $29.99. Men's Warehouse. Rise to the occasion.
The time to talk about Alzheimer's disease is now. More than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, and the number is increasing. Of the top 10 causes of death in the U.S., Alzheimer's is the only one that can't be prevented, cured, or even slowed. But you can help. During Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, visit your local Good Neighbor Pharmacy for free information on the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's and to make a donation to the Alzheimer's Association. For more information, visit your local Good Neighbor Pharmacy in June and help fight this terrible disease.
Dad, who's Captain D?
Legend has it. It was World War II fighter pilot Captain George Dillinger who crash-landed on a deserted island. He survived there for years, perfecting his seafood recipes, until he learned that the island wasn't so deserted after all.
That's not true, is it?
Not even a little, Bobby. The truth is, our new Fish and D's Jumbo Coconut Shrimp Meal is sure to be one of your favorites, like our popular sampler meal. For full meals starting at $4.99, it's gotta be D's.
CareSource insures thousands of members in Kentucky, but we're not built on numbers. We're built on compassion and care. Our commitment? People over profit. CareSource. Caring for the Commonwealth.
Enjoy 0% financing for 5 years and free TVs with your qualifying purchase at Sleep Outfitters. Get this Sealy Pillow Top Queen set with gel foam on sale now for just $4.99 plus a free TV. Find Tempur-Pedic Queen sets as low as $34 per month. Make it an adjustable for the same monthly payment. 0% financing for 5 years, free TVs, store-wide savings, and Queen Tempur adjustables as low as $34 a month. Only at Sleep Outfitters.
If you want to sell your house, you can call an ugly sign on the side of the road, or you can call a company with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. My name is Brian Evans, and I've been buying houses in Lexington for over 10 years. I can give you cash today. Call me at 859-278-HELP or go to 278help.com.
Back in 1809, I, Ephraim McDowell, performed the very first abdominal surgery right here in Danville. And since that time, I've seen generations of medical professionals build upon my work. I've seen awe-inspiring breakthroughs, and I've seen doctors with the ability to cure ailments that even I would have thought impossible. Today, the hospital that bears my name still captures the essence of who I am, and I could not be prouder.
Go all out, make Dad's day. Right now, buy one, get one free on most suits and more. Non-iron shirts are 3 for $99.99. Designer denim is 2 for $100, and other great gifts are just $29.99. Men's Warehouse. Rise to the occasion.
"25 minutes ago, former UK baseball assistant coach Nick Minjone, the new head coach at Kentucky. Minjone coached under John Cohen in Lexington in 2006 and 2007, helping win 78 games in Kentucky's only SEC championship.
While at Mississippi State, the Bulldogs have won a pair of SEC crowns with Minjone as an assistant. Runner-up finish in the College World Series back in 2013. He's also been the recruiting coordinator for 9 years. John Calipari not happy with the number 4 seed in the NCAA tournament this past season, but now Calipari will have a greater voice on that topic. Calipari is one of several coaches and administrators who have been chosen to examine the NCAA men's basketball tournament selection system. How about that? This committee will work with the NCAA in the coming weeks to discuss selection, seeding, and bracketing processes. Last month, UK Athletics Director Mitch Barnhart was selected as a member of the NCAA Men's Division I Basketball Committee. More details coming out about the arrest of UK forward Derek Willis over the weekend. Willis was found passed out in the street outside of a vehicle when he was arrested in Boone County Saturday. The deputy who arrested Willis reported him that he had had a lot to drink and could not advise where he was other than to say Northern Kentucky. Last season, Willis averaged 7.7 points, 4 rebounds in 32 games. He also shot 44% from three-point range. Kentucky Speedway had a unique feature to its racing surface. It was the bumpiest in the business, but not anymore. Lee K. Howard has drivers' reactions to the new track.
When NASCAR arrives in Kentucky for the Quaker State 400 in just a few weeks, it'll be a completely new racing surface for all of these drivers. For years, the drivers talked about and even preferred, some of them, the bumpy 1.5-mile oval that they got to race on here in Kentucky. But a repave was necessary, especially for drainage purposes. That being said, not every driver was a fan of the repave.
You know, this is certainly one of those places that we all did not want to see repaved, but you know, with some of the circumstances that we had with trying to dry the surface during rain delays, essentially the weepers were just so bad that we could never get it dry enough.
This track was definitely known for its character and its bumps, and a lot of teams took pride in if their car can get over bumps. You know, that's a good part, but I think, you know, I think everyone would admit they loved the racetrack before, but you kind of have to admit it was time to do something different. When it takes 3 or 4 hours to dry a track, it's kind of an inconvenience.
The drivers I spoke with said that Kentucky Speedway will still maintain its character, even though that character has changed a bit. Here in Sparta at the Kentucky Speedway, Lee K. Howard, WKYT.
And that Quaker State 400 will be here before you know it. Sam and Andrew, back to you.
A final check of your First Alert forecast is next.
Then on the CBS Evening News, team coverage of the Orlando attack, including the latest on the investigation and what we've learned about some of the victims.
WKYT's First Alert Weather follows you wherever you go, on TV, online, on your phone, and throughout the day on Mix 94.5.
Guys, I know this way! Yeah, wait, we can finally stop playing these wedding gigs and start rocking out! Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you got that ticket in the safe place, bro.
Oh, it was Ronnie's turn to get the ticket.
No, Ronnie. We let Ronnie go last week.
The only way you can win Kentucky's Powerball or Mega Millions jackpot is if you actually buy your ticket.
Ronnie!
Early mornings, long nights. Rain or shine, you keep going. Sometimes you feel like you'll never get there, but you keep putting one foot in front of the other because they need you to. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Every day, every dollar you've planned one step at a time. Well, with some really good help. It's for them. It's always been for them.
Trust our team to help you cross the finish line. Wealth South. Your race, our team.
Do you want to lose weight quickly and safely? Do you want to be healthy for a lifetime? Kim did and lost 238 pounds at Ageless Medical Weight Loss. Betty did and lost 135 pounds. The Ageless program is a medically supervised, affordable weight loss solution. Call today for a free consultation.
Taller grass has fewer weeds and needs less water. Mow better, Lexington.
Everything grown on Jonathan Lawler's farm goes to feed those in need.
We saw a need and we realized that, we could do something.
John Lawler here, you're our hero for helping those that can't help themselves. Thank you. Made in small batches using family farm fresh dairy, our concrete mixer is the hero's welcome.
Our goal is to raise 500,000 pounds of produce to distribute to food banks here in central Indiana.
Here's to the Lawlers. You may be entitled to $1,500 for every unwanted call made to your cell phone in the last 4 years. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
DQ funnel cake a la mode? Hold on.
For the next hours. Cloudy tomorrow.
Funnel cake has a new home. The DQ Bakes new funnel cake a la mode with the world famous DQ soft serve and your favorite topping. This is fan food, not fast food.
Funnel cake a la mode.
What we do is not about sickness. It's about living. Because you were made to live and live well. Let us show you how care is supposed to be. Lexington Clinic, your doctors for life.
Well, today was so refreshing compared to this weekend, which was just scorching.
Yeah, everybody with a little song in their heart, a little extra step.
Yes.
Pep in their step on a day like this. Bottom's got the beat over here.
I don't know about that.
Somewhat of a beat. 90 coming back into town tomorrow. Can't rule out a shower or thunderstorm into the afternoon. Better chance for some strong or severe storms second half of Wednesday. Weekend looks a lot better as of now. That's the good news.
Big change for UK baseball.
Yeah, Nick Minjone, the new head coach. He's a disciple of John Cohen. And he's also the recruiting coordinator at Mississippi State. We've gone to the College World Series a few times, so a new change is coming, and we'll meet him, I'm sure, in the next couple of days.
All right. CBS Evening News' Scott Pelley's next with the latest from Orlando.